In this lesson, we're going to be converting radians and degrees. So either we're going to go from radians to degrees or degrees to radians, and these are going to be ones that come up all the time and are very much non-calculator, typically style types of conversions. So the biggest thing that I need to know is that anything that you have as a pi over 3 refers to 60 degrees, pi over 6 refers to 30 degrees, pi over 4 is 45 degrees, pi over 2 is 90, and pi is 180. So these will help us significantly kind of deal with all of these ones that we're going to be converting. So biggest thing also is when you're talking about 2 pi over 3, you have 2 pi over 3s. So if 1 pi over 3 is 60, 2 pi over 3s is going to be 2 60s. So that is my, that's kind of the biggest thing, is this piece right here is referring to the fact that I'm dealing with a bunch of 60s. And this is how many? So that can make these things go very, very quickly. So if you have two 60-degree angles, then you are talking about 120 degrees. All right? If you have 7 pi over 6s, you're talking about, since you're dealing with over 6s, you're dealing with 30s. The way I remember this is, just to kind of help memorize it a little bit, anything over 4 is 45, so kind of the 4s go together. Anything over 6 is 30, so the 3s and the 6s go together, and the 3s and the 6s go together. So anything over 6, I know that 3s and 6s go together, so this is referring to 30s, and we're talking about 7 of them. So 7 30s is going to get us 210 degrees. And if we did number 3, if you had a negative 3 pi over 4, you're looking at, over 4s is 45, so you're looking at a bunch of 45s, and you're looking at 3 of them. So 3 45s is 45, 90, 135. So, and you're just going in a different direction, so it's negative 135 degrees. All right? And then if you just had 9 pi, if 1 pi is 180, 9 pi is going to be 9 of them. So if you multiplied it out, so you're looking at 180s, which are your pi's. There's 9 of them. If you multiplied 9 times 180, you would get 1,620 degrees. Okay, so the other side of this is if we have, let's say, 240 degrees, and you want to convert that. There's another connection going on that's bigger than just that these are 60s. These are also reference angles. So, and I'm sure there's multiple ways to do this, but I kind of go about thinking this as a visual. So if I were to draw this, if I drew 240, I would be 60 degrees into the third quadrant. That 60 tells me that I'm dealing with a bunch of pi over 3s. I just have to figure out how many. So I know that it's going to be over 3. Now my next question is, how many 60s does it take to get to 240? And that would be 4. So I would have 4 pi over 3. So I just need to know that the reference angle is, I need to know what the reference angle is, and then just how many of them. So if I had, let's say, negative 330. Negative 330 would put me kind of in this direction, 30 degrees shy. So that's negative 330. Reference angle is 30. So if you're talking about 30, you're talking about a bunch of pi over 6s. Just got to figure out how many. And if I have 330, I want to figure out how many 30s go into 330. We'll wipe a 0 away. How many 3s go into 33? And that would be 11. So negative 11 pi over 6. And then what if you had negative 540? So if you drew negative 540, we would go 360, and then it would actually be another 180 to get you right there. So you're looking at pies. So how many pies are we talking about? How many 180s are we talking about? Well, we went 1, 2, 3. So negative 3 pi. All right, I'll do one more. So what if you had 3,600 degrees? Well, that's quite a bit. So maybe there's a little bit of a different strategy to this. I like that this is 360. Well, that's just a bunch of, well, if I wipe away a 0, it's basically just a bunch of 360s. So that is 360 times 10. And 360 is equivalent to 2 pi. So if there's 10 360s and there's 10 2 pi's, that makes 20 pi. So there's definitely all sorts of different ways to go about doing this, but when you do draw it, it's all about, if you're not on an axis, then it's all about the reference angle. And again, these are meant to be the common ones. On another video, we'll talk about, well, then what if you don't have a 60, you have a 20 degree or something else that's not one of the common ones. These are meant to be non-calculator style problems. But that was a little sampling of converting radians and degrees, some of the common ones.